Anybody else need one?
Yeah.
Randy Cole, you need one?
I think I've got one. Show me the pen. You gotta cut back some more.
I know. Well, we get them back. We don't let
Sure,
people.
she's got that. Pin knots, is that the word for it?
He's supposed to have the right kind of egg, that's
We're
always.
going to start a meeting with the pledge. They went through that, had to be blue, had to be black, had to do this here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve or make any corrections.
I don't have any corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, carried 3-0, approve the agenda as posted. Chris Hammock here in place of Pam Gottlieb.
Yes, we've got December 5th payroll in the amount of $159,316.72, and December 19th payroll in the amount of $173,711.76. In addition to that, with our benefits claims, the amount was $284,241.48, and then our monthly invoices of $1,659.13.
Questions or discussion?
Yeah, Chris, I noticed that, you know, our health care is substantially higher now. Is that just an accumulation for this period, or is it farther than just this pay period?
I know that the claims were higher this month. They finished everything out with the hospital.
So that it's actually catching things up?
Yes.
Okay, all right. 'Cause
Yeah, the agreement with that was signed.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Vote aye, carried 3-0. Next thing on the agenda, oh, is that it, Chris?
That's it.
Okay.
Did you do 5 and 19 both?
Hmm?
For December 5th and December 19th? And the benefits all as one motion? Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Next on the agenda is Aaron Emerson of PCDC.
Right. Thank you for having us here today, here for our annual contract renewal. And before we start, I'm going to let David, our board chair, talk a little bit about our structure.
All right, David Gaffinet, Chairman of the Perry County Development Corporation. So one of the things I think that is very important for you and the community to understand is that we do have a governance structure that was designed from the onset of the organization to engage and have as critical participants in our process the community or the clients that we serve, the county, the city, the town of Troy, and at one time Candleton, city of Candleton as well. But you have a copy of the presentation. I'm not going to read through the specific names, but we wanted to make sure you understood who the delegates are at this point in time, the function, you can see that on the first slide, and then the board of directors. Our board meets quarterly, and our executive committee meets on the off months. So we also invite all members of the board to attend and at least participate in the conversations of the executive committee. And the one thing that I think that we've been trying to emphasize for the last several years is that the commission, the council, city council, City of Tell City, the town of Troy, have a representative on the board. And our expectation and hope is that they are reporting back to you and to their respective bodies. We have reports that we provide, and our hope is that they're making sure that they get in your hands as well, and that they serve as a liaison and bring back questions and so forth. But of course, we always want you to know, if you ever have any questions, you can reach out to any of us at any time. We would certainly entertain that. So with that, I do want to turn it over to Aaron Emerson to take it from here.
Thank you. All right, in your presentation, we are on the slide about the evolving role of economic development. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of really hit that home, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. Economic development has really continued to evolve from a major focus on business attraction, site development, and business retention and expansion. Those are still focus areas. We are still heavily involved in business retention, and we still are involved in the business attraction game, but economic development has truly evolved. In addition to business attraction and business retention and expansion, we also have a focus on community development, workforce development, entrepreneurship, small business development, quality of life, and talent retention and attraction. The next slide has some site decision factors that were taken directly from requests for information for businesses looking to relocate or start a new location. And these were termed as like key decision factors for these businesses. Adequate labor pool, access to rail, move-in ready, incentives, labor, availability, quality, and dependability, community enthusiasm for the project, all utilities on site, room for expansion, and workforce. That being said, workforce is absolutely the #1 determining factor right now for the majority of companies, because we are all in such a workforce competition across the state and across the country. On business attraction, I wanted to share with you where business leads come from. If we do have the opportunity to get a new business from the state of Indiana or the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we receive direct inquiries from businesses looking to locate. They are always very vague. They always have some type of a code name. For example, we submitted one last year, and I think it was called Project Elsa, but it was for a frozen foods company. So sometimes they get a little bit witty there, but we never know exactly what, who the company is or anything like that. It's very coded, but we do get those from the state of Indiana directly emailed to us. In addition, we may get leads from our regional partners, our utility partners, commercial realtors, local industry, and occasionally a direct outreach contact. What are these businesses looking for? They are looking for, a lot of times, existing buildings, whether they be vacant or spec or shell buildings, pre-permitted build-to-suit options, greenfield, which would be sites with all the utilities already in place, infrastructure is already zoned, ready to build and ready to be in operation within 18 months. Those timeframes have really been decreasing over the last couple of years. They want to find a location and be ready to operate as quick as possible. They are also looking at overall location, utilities, transportation, logistics, zoning, pro-business atmosphere, and more. What are they actually looking at? They're looking at our community. They are looking at our demographics, our labor force, our talent pipelines, access to skilled labor, what kind of universities or workforce development we may have in the area, overall quality of life, really things like that. And that is our job, is to present us in the best light possible. As of yesterday, we have received 80 requests for information from the Indiana Economic Development Corporation in this year. And based upon the criteria provided and the sites that we have available, we were able to respond to 7 of those, which is not a lot of the 80, but we're talking some of these requests are for 500 to 1,000 acres, which we simply don't have here right now. So it is extremely difficult to actually land a new company. which is why business retention and expansion is so crucial. We do not want to lose any of our existing businesses, which is why we really focus on the importance of relationships, and we pride ourselves in having really strong, close relationships with our major employers, so that if there is potentially an issue, that we can be alerted to that as soon as possible and work to find a solution before it would come to them potentially leaving the area or downsizing. Or on the opposite spectrum, if they're looking at potential expansion, we want to be able to help them as soon as possible. We also work with our existing businesses on infrastructure improvements that may be needed. We can be the liaison for state and local incentives if they're seeking those, and state and federal grant and loan programs. Number one, workforce. Still, for our existing businesses, workforce is crucial, and it will be a lot of times the deciding factor on if they have a project that they could potentially expand. What are the local workforce options? So we have a large focus on workforce development. We want to make sure that all of the individuals in our community that want to work have the skills necessary, and not the skills necessary to go work in another county necessarily or in another state. We want to make sure that we have the training available in our community to meet the needs of the jobs that we have here now, which really drives the work that we do with all of our local school corporations, Ivy Tech, and Southwest Indiana Workforce Board. We've worked really closely with Ivy Tech over the last several years to make sure that they have the equipment necessary to do these trainings. We worked with them 3-4 years ago and did a $500,000 fundraising campaign in order to buy upgraded robotics and things like that so that they could do the trainings necessary, because you have to have the equipment. We work with the Perry County Learning Partnership and the Perry County College Success Coalition. We work to do events like Aspire, which we kind of jokingly like to call speed dating for careers. That is all sophomores in the county have the opportunity to go spend a day networking with male and female professionals, and they get 10 to 15 minutes with professionals at a table and really get to get an idea of what they do for a living, and then they rotate every 10 to 15 minutes. And in that day, they have the potential to be exposed to 40 different professionals in our community, so that they at least have a taste of what is available, and then begin to maybe network and develop those relationships. We do the tour of opportunity, which is for 8th graders, and it gives them the opportunity to visit WPACA, ATTC, the hospital, and Ivy Tech. And again, just about exposure. They may never think about those careers if they have not been exposed to them. And there's also been a lot of change in technology over the last decade or two, so it's really important for them to see these aren't necessarily the old factory that you think about in your parents' mind. We do job and career fairs, and we also do participate with our local schools in mock interviews or career days if they host those. Amanda and I last week were at Tell City High School talking to 8th graders about our personal college and career experiences, and then also exposing them to all the different options in our area. But workforce development alone is not enough, because even if we were able to keep every student that graduated this upcoming year, still wouldn't be enough to meet our local workforce needs. So we work on talent retention and attraction. And we are really excited about the direction that the county is headed in. Perry County was one of few rural counties in Indiana to experience population growth. With a population of around 19,316, census data shows that from July 2020 to July 2021, the county grew in population by 0.9%, placing it among the top 5 fastest growing counties outside of the Indianapolis area. We have to keep doing that. It is imperative that we do that for the long-term success of our community. So we are really excited to see things headed in that direction. We have the Perry Campaign, which is a partnership between the Perry County Chamber of Commerce and the Perry County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And through that, we have really worked to develop and amplify a talent retention and attraction campaign, and really remind people why this community is so great to live in, and then share that message to a broader audience. We've often found that when we're doing internal marketing, it can result in external marketing, because if you give your community the tools to say this is a great place to live, and they will take that and be your own recruiters and go out and try to get their family and friends to locate here as well. We do several events. Last year we did the Pick Perry After Hours event, where we really did a lot of outreach to anyone we knew was new to the community. We worked with our local employers, any new hires that they had, and we did invitations to an event at Bottom of the Barrel, and it was really just a networking opportunity. We invited people who already lived here as well, so they had the opportunity to connect and get to know those people and kind of put down roots. It was very well attended. We also help coordinate welcome bags that are free to anyone who is looking at moving into the community or who has located here, and they are full of all kinds of goodies, but also calendar events or free coupon or a glass of wine or a scoop of ice cream, but just to get people out in the community after they're located here and start to get to know people, because we know that they will be much more likely to remain in our community if they start to network and put down roots. Earlier this year, Waupaca Foundry closed one of their facilities in Etowah, which impacted about 500 employees. And all of those employees were offered relocation packages to either go to Wisconsin or to Tell City. And we worked hand in hand with Waupaca to put together information about the community that they then took to Tennessee and shared with all of those employees. We received really positive feedback from that. And then when those employees were looking at potentially coming to the area, we worked hand in hand with them on locating housing. And as you all probably know, there is not a lot of housing in our community right now. So sometimes it was moving down the list of who can we call, but trying to ensure that they could find something locally and not end up outside the area. And it wasn't just housing, it was utilities, it was schools, it was things like that, but really the kind of the front line to help them figure out how to live in our community. Community development. We work, again, a lot on housing, because housing is crucial for us to be able to continue to grow. And we hope that in the coming year we'll have some newer developments, but Ron Smith is currently nearing completion on the 36-unit complex that is downtown. We've been working on that since well before COVID, and that definitely slowed it down, but we're really excited to have some new options there. And we'll talk about READY in a little bit, but there are some READY funds for some single-family developments that will be really crucial. Childcare is a big part of that, because if we are able to attract people into this area or even get them back after maybe they've left and gone to college and they're ready to start their families, they have got to be able to have access to childcare so that they can be productive members of our workforce. And I do think that we have members of our community right now that would like to work or maybe go from part-time to full-time that have the barrier of not having access to childcare. Either they can't afford it or they simply don't have access. So we do work on that. This past year we were able to get the reimbursement rate that a provider in Perry County is paid. We were at the very, very bottom, and we were able to raise that to be second in the state. We raised that reimbursement rate by about 150%. So it now is potentially financially feasible to have licensed childcare in this community, which is huge. We also have evolved to have a focus on mental health and addiction and recovery services, because we know that that is really crucial and we have a void in that area. We work with the Perry County Mental Health Coalition to try and increase access. We've been seeking some different grants and working with providers in the community right now to see how we can assist them in expanding access. Quality of life. We have a Quality of Life committee that hosts several events in our community. This past year we hosted the 4th Annual Chalk Art Festival, the 5th Annual Farm to Table Dinner, and this year we are looking forward to hosting our 10th Sylvester-Naut. All of these events are free to the community, and they also, like the Farm to Table Dinner was a fundraiser, and as a result of that we were able to donate $1,000 back to Perry Central FFA students for their programming and $1,000 back to Tell City Culinary Arts for their programming as well. Entrepreneurship and small business development is another really key part of what we do. We partner with the Perry County Chamber of Commerce and host them in our office. We also work one-on-one with local small businesses. We post their job positions on our website, and then we are also the sponsor for Indiana Small Business Development Center. And that is just a very valuable service that is totally free to a local business owner that is looking for some advising. Maybe they need to develop a business plan in order to get financing. Maybe they want to know about their competitors or some market research. And through us, they have access to free, confidential, one-on-one business counseling. And a lot of times they meet in our office, but those advisors will meet anywhere anyone would like to at their place of business. Since 2017, through that, we have had 43 clients counseled for a total of 390 total counseling hours, over $850,000 of capital infusion, and 4 new business starts. So we already did all of that. Those were already all of our focus areas. And then in May of 2021, the state came out with the READY program, which I was here in October, and I gave a detailed READY report then, so I don't necessarily have to go over all of these slides. But it was supposed to be a really transformational program for the state. It was through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. It was $500 million appropriation from the state legislature to encourage communities, counties to form into regions and come up with a regional development plan on pretty much how you are going to grow your population, attract talent, develop talent, be this kind of incubator for population growth and talent development in Indiana. We were able to form into a region with Harrison, Spencer, Pike, and Knox. And they're called the Indiana First Region. We did put together a plan which was announced the end of 2021. All of the regional funding amounts were announced. Our region received $15 million. And there were also some stipulations with those funds that weren't known as much when the plan first came out. Those are the state's federal ARP dollars, so there are some restrictions on what those funds can be used for. We had applied for $50 million and we got 15, so there definitely had to be some kind of realignment with projects based on the funding amount and the ARP guidelines. But to skip ahead to the second to last slide, the Perry County projects that have received approval for funding are the Hoosier Heights subdivision up to $1 million in ready funds for water, wastewater, and/or roadways, with a total project investment of over $10 million. Forest Canton Heights subdivision, which is RDC's project, up to $775,000 in ready funding for water, wastewater, and our roadways, for a total project investment of over $7 million. The Tell City Sports Complex to receive up to $510,000 in ready funding for sanitary sewer and an ADA facility for the press box, concessions, restrooms, for a total project investment of almost $7 million. And the Ivy Tech Workforce Training and Enhancement Project, which is $350,000 in ready funds, and that will be for HVAC in labs and some advanced automation and robotics equipment, for a total project of investment of $470,000. The total Perry County amount is $2.635 million in ready projects, but clearly the overall investment for those is much more. We've spent a year kind of getting everything into place and are really excited this upcoming year to see those projects begin. And looking ahead at 2023, in addition to starting the READY projects, the state is looking to launch READY 2.0, and we don't know all of the guidelines that will be around that, but we do have a region set up and in place that we did not have before in order to really take advantage of going after those funds. We are in the middle of doing strategic planning as an organization right now. We had a half-day planning session. We did some community input surveys. We're in the middle of doing one-on-one stakeholder interviews right now. And really just taking this as an opportunity to look ahead at the next 5 to 10 years and what direction as an organization do we need to go in to ensure that we are meeting the needs of this community. And we most recently launched our remote worker attraction program. It is a partnership with the state and with Make My Move, which is a company out of Indianapolis that specializes in connecting with and attracting remote workers. We are funding that with $25,000, and there are some matching funds through the state and through Lilly Endowment, which will create an overall $100,000 program where we will be able to offer $7,000 cash incentives for someone to move outside of the state into Perry County to locate here. They either need to be a remote worker who's going to bring their job with them, or those can be paired with like a local employer who is looking to fill a higher level management position, or the salary requirements are $50,000 or more a year. And we're looking to partner with local businesses to see what kind of incentives we can pair with that. Maybe it's a gym membership or high-speed internet, something like that. But to really, again, we want those people here, but we don't just want them working in their homes and never coming out. We want to get them embedded in our community as well. So we're super excited about that this year. We should get 8 new residents as a result of that program. That is a quick overview of our current focus and where we are looking to go in the coming years. And we are open to questions, comments, feedback.
You know, I have to have a question. And I just got this budget and I read through it here before the meeting, and it looks like you're covering quite a lot. My question would have to follow this line. After you go through one of these programs or you carry it out, how do you measure it? How do you determine that this was worthwhile? Because with no way to measure it, you can't manage it. So how do you do that?
Definitely heard your feedback. I remembered your feedback from earlier this year, and that is actually a portion of our strategic plan looking forward is coming up with measurable return on investment deliverables for all the areas that we are working in. I feel confident that we have been successful, but I do understand your point that it would be nice to be able to measure that.
The problem and this is, any business decision follows this thing. I think I'm doing something, but I don't know I'm doing something. So if I'm trying to attract, and this is the simple way, someone to live in our community, when they move, buy a house, I know that was successful. But when you do some of these other programs, whether it's handing out items and coupons and things, unless we have a way to track back that so many coupons were used by out-of-town people that visited our community, or some way to track it, to know that that was a successful program. And I understand, you pick a program, you do a program, you hope for the best, but you need to determine whether it was successful, so you either do it again or you don't do it again. So we don't spend resources in it.
If I may, one of the things that is a true gauge for us in terms of how we're performing is probably represented by people that are sitting here. If we weren't serving their needs too and helping them in terms of retaining or providing things like housing, because as many of the employers will tell us, if the individuals choose to live outside of a certain radius from where they work, if at some point an opportunity presents itself that is equivalent, that's closer, they'll take that opportunity. So we take as much of a gauge of our performance off of how what we hear from them as we do a specific measurable like you're referring to. But that being said, as Aaron did note, one of the things when we met with the group that was taking us through the strategic planning exercise was we said, look, we've heard very loud and clear it's important to us to find ways to be more measurable, to have metrics, and to that end, we're definitely going to be doing that. So.
And that is one of the things that I really liked the most about the Make My Move program. As part of that program, for each person that you get to locate in your community, they will provide a breakdown of return on investment based on that household's income. How many tax dollars is that generating? What is the local impact of that? And I think that will be very useful.
And this is the same program Muncie's done for a few years, correct?
There are several communities throughout the state. I don't know if Muncie's necessarily one of them.
I think they were the first one in the state of Indiana that initiated this, and I'm believing it was a couple of years ago they did it. So they should have somewhat of a track record, but
yes.
The other side of it is Muncie's a little different environment than what Tell City or Perry County is. So
we have a
gauge that.
case study on, so Du Bois County Orange County and Crawford County are currently
Active.
participating in the program, and for the whole radius region, which is more than those 3 counties. But there is a case study on how many people did they have apply, how many people followed through, how many people actually ended up moving there, what's the average income. So we can do a comparison with a little more similar demographics.
Do you ever do interviews when people exit our community? And those that also the business, I mean, simply.
It's a great question.
You do this simply whenever an employer loses
Oh, yeah.
an employee, and you can gain a lot of information, because once they're leaving, they're gonna be kind of truthful.
Yes.
And as long as it actually is listened to with a clear, not just, well, he's just a disgruntled employee and he wants to smear us now, but if you actually listen to some of the challenges they face, because I think it would give us some insight into things that we can direct our efforts towards, potentially correct those and retain more and lure more people into the community. That's all of it. We're on the same page. It's growth.
Yes, and we do that. I mean, we may not do formal interviews, but anytime we find out, someone that we have connected with, maybe they got a welcome bag at the beginning, maybe we helped them get a job. We find out that they are leaving the community, absolutely. That is a question. What, so sorry
Why?
to see you go. What's going on? And that has driven our work with increasing housing options. Childcare access has been huge on that front. And then honestly, part of it has just been not connecting with the community. There have been some younger WPACA employees that we have connected with, but maybe a little too late, to where they already felt kind of disconnected, or I went through leadership Perry County with one of them a few years ago, and after we met, he was constantly saying, hey, can we go out for a drink? What are you guys doing? You want to hang out? Well, I'm at a different life stage than he was in his life, but I have kids, so I couldn't always go hang out. They ended up, they moved to Pennsylvania, I believe, but I really think for them, it would have been finding a core group of people. It would be very lonely to live in a community where you hadn't found your people, and I think a lot of times that's why people leave, because they weren't born here, they didn't grow up here, they don't have family or classmates that they've known for years, and until they find that connection, they're not going to stay.
And again, to kind of lean on this group, they do, much like we do in our business, we do conduct exit interviews with all of the employees that leave. And when we have our industry forums, those are primary topics of discussion that they'll reply back to us and say, you got to help us. They're not seeing the kind of housing that they need. The opportunities for a certain demographic just aren't there that they were looking for, and they could find it somewhere else. And if they can't find it here, we're in trouble. So again, the partnerships with our local employment base are critical, because we do make it a point as in the business world to understand why people leave us. And to expand that more broadly to our county, it's a valid question. Quite frankly, we're working our tail ends off to keep the talent we grow through our schools, our own children. We all want them to come back, but there's even that other group that doesn't have even what they do, which is they have a family bond here. What about the ones that don't? So again, these are conversations that are very integral into how we plan what we want to do in terms of initiatives on an annual basis.
But when you do this here, and this is just the angle I would come from, I would set a specific, whether it's a document or whatever, and ask the questions. You're going through interviews right now, and they have a specific document. They don't have random questions asked by people within the community. You need to know exactly and ask the same questions so you can graph it and see what the problems are. We can't be all things to all people. We don't have the ability to do that.
Right.
So we have to realize what we actually, it's like you had 80 people that requested information and only 7 you responded to. That's clearly because that's something within our wheelhouse that we can actually do. So you pick the 7 out. Same thing with this, when you interview these people, you clearly can see what is a concern, and if it's something addressable within our community, by all means, we should do it. If the gentleman says that I'm not staying here because you don't have an NFL team, we're not going to get him to stay.
Yes.
So that's clearly why, if you have structure, then it'll point you in the direction we need to go.
And we've done some tracking. We do have some Excel sheets on feedback we were hearing from realtors about, why were people looking to come here? There were at least 3 families from Pennsylvania that came here because our taxes were lower. Which is good to know, because then we might be able to do some strategic recruitment to that area, because clearly we are appealing to them. But then we have another spreadsheet that just tracks, what are we helping people with? What is that barrier? You know, if they come here and they need a job, we work to connect them with a job, if it's childcare, if it's housing. And housing often is one of the biggest barriers, and if they end up locating in a neighboring county or in Kentucky, we are already at a disadvantage to getting them to live here and stay here.
And the revenue that follows.
Yes, it does. We get a lot on trailing spouses too. It's oftentimes when a family makes a decision to move, it's often two people in a house are working. So, and again, to have the partnerships, it's so valuable so we can, and the networks, and getting people to, hey, we've got a potential family here. There's a person that has this interest, and start getting that word out as to
Similar
who
age
might be
children
able to
who-
provide that for that opportunity for them. Because I'm pretty sure that most places are still looking for employees around here. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a challenge.
It is. It is.
And we're in stiff competition with a lot of
it's everywhere.
communities.
That's a good point. Geez, yeah.
Yeah, but to measure, that's a very good point. You have to measure, you pay for something, you want to know what you paid for. I mean, that's,
And that it's a success. You may,
Right.
in every program you go into, the intention is for it to be successful. Nobody goes into anything with thinking, no, this will be a blow up. But if it doesn't get the response back from the people that you expected, then let's not continue to do it. Let's take the resources and plow them in another direction. That's the point.
well, and with that said, they have measured other, like the entrepreneur and small business development. I mean, they've got measurements in their presentation, and the housing, the work done with the READY program, if that work wasn't done, we wouldn't be getting $2.6 million. I mean, within our community, and that's all towards housing development is all that READY fund
Housing.
Most
is.
of it, and
The
that,
sports
and the
complex and
quality of
everything.
life piece too, yeah.
Right, but I mean, it's a huge boost.
It's all
to
about
the-
growing the population, not that.
Yeah, to the housing issue,
Mhm.
in 2 different housing developments.
Yep.
And I believe that's a measurable, I mean, I think that's a measure to the work.
To me, that's probably one of the most important things, because I think Perry County was a little bit behind on that compared to some of the other counties with development. I say maybe 10 years behind some of the other, say Du Bois County. I'm glad where we're at now. and
Very
heading in the
excited
right
to be
direction.
having some newer housing options, and
Yes.
that honestly has been one of the barriers too, when upper level management gets a job offer in this area and they look at their options, if there's nothing in their range to buy, they're going to locate outside the area, or just not come.
Yeah, to one of those areas that got a little ahead of the game.
Yes, and I got a son who lives in Gibson County, and they're struggling down there for housing with Toyota down there. And, I mean, you got a house, it's gone within a day on the market, so. We're not the only one.
Yeah.
so.
But we have to be competitive.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And we have to keep programs going to be competitive.
That's right.
And we also have a focus on increasing the rental or multifamily market. The READY funds are going towards the single family, but again, Ron is working on his, and we're constantly trying to identify other locations within our community that would be a good site for some multifamily housing, and working with developers.
Yeah.
With that being said, it is extremely, extremely competitive, because every community, especially rural communities like us, are desperate for housing and are desperate for those developers. So it is important for you guys to know incentives are key. I mean, we have to be willing to incentivize someone to come in and do that type of development, because all these little communities are desperate for it.
Yeah.
And if we're not willing, the next one will be.
And having a gap in the particular type of housing option can stall everything. And that particular, the apartment living opportunity, it's a big gap one because it catches the young, straight, into employment type of resident, and then it catches the aging into a more manageable situation group, which opens up potentially that house in that bracket that upper management or management level person was looking for, but it never comes free because there's nowhere for that person to transition, and not to sound morbid, but then it's merely death that affords them the chance to have a home, and that's not acceptable. It's just, in this day and age, we have to provide that full range of housing so people can truly live the circle of life of housing and keep those open to that next generation of people who are
And
looking.
we know we don't have enough because we know there are many people working in Perry County that are not currently living in Perry County, and those would be the easiest to get. They already have a job, they're already coming here every day.
Yeah.
If we had some housing, I think that they would be much more likely to locate here.
Especially when they get families closer to schools.
Yes,
Mhm.
the benefits
That makes a big
of being
difference.
It
in
just
one
does.
neighborhood makes sense, and we have a much more likely chance of keeping them.
Yes.
Well, I think we're heading in a good direction. I mean, it's not a quick turnaround, but, you know, we have to turn.
Yeah, that's right, we're turning.
You gotta turn before you.
Yeah, you can't turn the barge on a dime, we know a
Right.
little bit about that, right?
Well, Tom will probably vouch for that. I've been commissioner for 10 years, and I watched PCDC develop from what it was back then to now, and you are making a big turn in the direction we need to be going. You know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we were looking at getting jobs here.
Yeah, big industry.
Yes.
Yep.
And now we've got that. Now,
We need all of the other stuff that is required.
exactly.
And know that we're focusing on diversification too. I mean, it's important to realize that we, some of the industry base we have now it creates its own additional need, right, to support that. We don't want to be blind to the fact that if you provide some diversification to that, that we could maybe catch another pocket, give other opportunities for people that maybe don't feel that they would fit within that realm, and it not be a direct competitor outside of, you know, as long as we're doing our job and getting more people here, outside of workforce, not be a direct competitor. So we aren't blind to that too. We understand how important that is, and when we develop these kids in school systems that are rounded and diverse, we want them to have that diverse opportunity to come back to as well. So we're trying to do that as well. It's a difficult market, but I will promise you, you've got fighters in this staff. They have a good plan going forward, and it'll get better when we get through this strategic planning. I can attest to that.
In my opinion, as an elected official, I'm not an expert. I'll tell you that right now on economic development. That's why we look for you guys to do our job. Bottom line, we don't have the time or the expertise, which I don't, so it's money well spent.
We appreciate, Aaron, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve the community that we believe in. This is our home, and that is at the root of everything that drives this organization. Is there's nothing more meaningful to us than that. If we aren't at any point meeting those needs, we would hope that you and anyone else would be the first to make us aware of that. We are nimble now. We're much more nimble in the 10 years you're talking about. The structure of our board is representative of kind of a transition of individuals too. We'll meet your needs because frankly, that is our point, that's our purpose.
That's your sole focus, as opposed to a engineering firm or a consulting firm that has multiple clients.
Yeah, no.
The only multiple clients you have are within Perry County.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's it.
that really has driven that evolving focus. I mean, I didn't just wake up one day and say, I want to focus on mental health. I mean, it was feedback from the community about the needs. And Randy, like you said, the exit interviews, it really
hearing you.
why we were losing people or there were issues, that is what drives the work that we do.
But being measurable is also a good,
Yeah,
it has to be an aspect.
We have to be accountable, folks. I mean, end of the day, if we aren't, that's not acceptable. I mean, we have to have that, and we will absolutely, again, through the assistance of the team that we're working with, start to do that. And internally, that we have lots of data and things that we've compiled over the years. We kind of want to build a metrics by which, again, we can hold ourselves accountable, and you as our client.
Well, like
hold us
Randy
accountable.
said, in the years that I've been commissioner too, the focus has changed because you needed, the only input you needed was you need jobs when at the infancy of this.
Mhm.
And now there's a lot more input, whether it's surveys or just input from the community to tell what we need to solve the problems, which is to fill the jobs that have been created. I mean, just to put it simply,
Oh, yeah.
as simple as you
And I think
can.
we do have a lot of opportunity with our current existing employers here for expansion, for
We do.
growth in their job numbers. They have that potential. But they can't do it until they are able to meet their current workforce demands. And that really has driven, the feedback we have received from them has really driven this focus on talent retention and attraction and the services that are necessary in our community.
Thank you for.
Thank you.
For the update. Well, with that, what we have in front of us is the yearly contract that we, and this, I know both of you have seen it too, and it is, and just give the highlights of it, that it is a not to exceed amount of it is billed services. And Exhibit A gives that breakdown. Professional consulting services, project management services, and administrative services are broke down into dollar value, dollar figure. The amount that the contract will not exceed is $259,388, and just to be $0.00. And just to be clear on that, for the ones that haven't been following this over the years, that is not an automatic check to PCDC for $259,388. That is just saying that this contract said that they will not receive any more than that. That they have to give a monthly statement or bill to the county, and it goes to the council and commissioners for approval of the claim. And every claim that comes for this commission can be questioned, and a lot of times are. So that's the gist of the contract.
Tom, you might mention where that number comes from. That comes from the edit plan.
Yes.
It's set up years ago, 20% of the edit plan goes to PCDC.
Yeah, the economic development income tax, which was put in place in the early 90s, before our time, and then every year, and then we have our economic development payment, and so much of that. Right now, 50% goes to road improvement projects, and 20% goes to economic development. So since it's economic development, 20% of that is estimated $259,388. So we can't spend any more than that, because that's part of the economic,
The edit
the
plan.
edit plan, economic development income tax plan. So, but that, like I said, by no means says that that is just a check to PCDC. That their services are contracted, and they cannot bill any more than that amount total in the year. So that's all it said. Can they bill less than that? Absolutely.
Okay, at this point, I would like to table this because I just got it 2 minutes ago. and I'd like to read the contract. I briefly looked at it, and I can't see any reference back to the breakdown of the edit funds, but the council has changed the edit funds, and we have never modified that agreement. There's a set aside for the operating of the dispatch center goes into that, and also a percentage of that money now is to be reserved for maintenance of county buildings. And I haven't read it, but if that's used in the fashion it had in the past, what's going to happen is the funding will not be set aside for the council's intended use. It will be passed through to the entities, the highway, the jail operation. I think a portion of it was the
The
dispatch
portion
center.
for that came out of that 30%.
Out of the 30, but now you've got another .05 that's supposed to be set
It
aside
comes out
for
of the
maintenance.
30, it comes out of the 30%.
No, it doesn't. It's new. When they reduced the jail tax, they took off .50 and added 9 cents back into the rate to be broken out and used for maintenance of the buildings. And 4 cents went for, I believe, dispatch is where they put it. But it's changed, and if we don't change that plan, then those funds flow through, and it's defeated what the council took action on. So until that's addressed, I think we need to table it.
I think out of the 30% is courthouse security comes in that too.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's
Right,
maybe
out
the
of the
6
30,
the
but I
6.
don't think it's changed the edit plan that 20% is for economic development, and this contract is to not exceed. They can be cut off ahead of that. That doesn't guarantee them that, but we need to continue our efforts. There is no plan to do this job. That's my point, that this is the same contract except for the dollar amounts. They do not exceed amount as we've had in the past. With no plan to do these very important tasks, I think that we need to continue this agreement until there's something in place. Now, the amount, like I said, is a do not exceed amount. That doesn't guarantee that amount. If somewhere along the road that amount is reduced, then that can be addressed at that time.
But it's still 20% of the edit funds,
Yes,
up to that, yeah.
up to
And so
that
when
amount,
the
but it
edit-
doesn't guarantee, we still can't guarantee payment to PCDC. That's to go before the council. This is saying that our contract with PCDC, the commissioner's contract with the PCDC, that it won't exceed that.
The edit funds will take in approximately $300,000 in additional revenue. If you don't modify the program, then 20% of that will go into the pot for this right here, or $60,000. Half of that amount, $150,000, will go to the highway department. 23 whatever percent will go to operations of the jail. The other 6 whatever percent will go there. We will not have funds set aside for maintaining this building and the rest of the county facilities, nor will we have the 4 cents that I think they were paying for dispatch services. That's what the council did when they changed their tax rate here that's effective January 1st. That's what they did on the edit plan. So we have to modify that if we want to carry out the wishes of the council. I mean, that was their intent, was to try to, right now we have a rainy day fund, I think last I looked, $30,000. So the first time we have a stumble someplace, we have the money.
Chris, can you answer, did the 259,388 come from 20% estimate of the edit?
I received those numbers from the state through Pamela or Connie with the city, and then I calculated the 20% every year. It was based on the numbers that came from the state's finance.
Okay.
And they have the total for edit, and then I calculated the 20% of that.
Okay. So it's an accurate number from the state, estimated by our current tax structure.
Whatever.
Yeah, come from our current tax structure, which has been passed. and takes effect January.
I think they passed it in September, if I remember correctly, but still, you're 100 cents of the pie. If you take that and do not take a percentage of that back out for county building maintenance and/or the other intended use, then everyone that's currently in the pie is going to get a big increase, and the funding for taking care of the building's property will not be set aside. That's why you have to modify that edit plan to reflect the wishes of the council whenever they put that additional edit tax on.
The amount has to be approved by the council. We are just saying that it does not exceed that.
If you want to pass it, I haven't read it, I'll vote against it if you want to pass it under those terms. I need to read the contract.
Yes, Stan, or, I think Keith or Stan, either one.
As you know, we had an election. We have a new commissioners coming on board, new council. I don't know what the hurry is on getting this contract through. I think you need to wait until the new administration comes in, council commissioners, and let them decide. You're passing something now, and they'll have to live with it for a whole year.
Because there's nothing else.
We're right here at the end, so what's the hurry? I mean, what's another 2 or 3 weeks going into next year gonna hurt? That's my feeling on it.
Okay.
There's no sense rushing it, there's no sense rushing into this.
When does the current contract
Keith,
end?
come up here, please.
When does the current contract end?
December 31st, I
December
believe.
31st.
So therefore, we're covered until,
December 31st.
Yeah.
But
Agree
my
with Stan
point is,
totally.
there is nothing in place to take care of this economic development for the next year. And you can't just snap your finger and all of a sudden, okay, we're gonna do this. Randy's got a different point that the amount may not be accurate. Well, that amount has to be approved by the council. I mean, this is the do not exceed this amount. And we're saying that.
yeah, but you're gonna agree to something, or is the PCDC gonna agree that the council may not approve that amount?
Their claim will be denied. I mean,
Whose claim will be denied?
when the claim from PCDC comes, they will have to be asked and be answered what work is done in that month.
Because one thing, as a council, this council member would like to see when the PCDC submits billing, they just give one invoice. They
Yes.
want us to cut them a check and then they will pay.
Right.
It would be nice if they would give us the invoices of what we're paying for.
Right, yeah. And you have,
You get, there, we submit invoices on a monthly basis based upon the hours worked in that month.
I mean, I agree 100% with what Stan said, what Randy's saying, that we need to, it's only fair to let them know what that amount's gonna be after everything's taken care of that the council has set forth.
well,
And you don't have the
the
figure.
amount is not set. The do not exceed amount is set by this contract. But the amount billed is Exhibit A, and it's a breakdown, and they give that on a monthly bill. But if the council doesn't want to approve,
Well, the council, I would reasonably say, is going to stay with what they set forth when they redid that tax for the jail, for building maintenance. And then what's left for the PCDC is gonna be what's left out of that.
So you didn't look at, as a council, the 30%, just working within that 30% in the council budget hearings?
No.
No.
I can answer that one, because see, what happened there, this was the whole discussion they had, was the 50 cents was coming off because they prepaid the jail. And that original 50 cents was put on there 10 years ago by that current council, and they promised that they'd take it off when that jail was paid for. Okay. So the council, I participated early on with this. The council decided then that they can prepay in August, and that takes about $1 million worth of expenses off of the county by paying early. That's what they chose to do. At that time, when we looked at our rainy day fund of near nothing, and we look around at the facilities and we're thinking, what happens if we lose a heating unit here, or something else happens? We have no money for that. So the thought was, during that period of time when we take off the 50 cents would be an ideal time to add a little bit of money back into the edit plan, and a nickel will generate about $200,000 a year. That was set aside, and then they had 4 cents, and it was for the dispatch service, if I remember correctly. So, in order, because we have obligations with Tell City to pay a larger percentage of that cost. So that's what the council decided to do. Rather than taking the full 50 cents off, in effect, they took 41 cents down. That's why our rate is substantially lower starting January 1st. Now that fund will come into the edit receipts. Currently how it's split, it will never have anything allocated for building maintenance and or the dispatch service, because it's the old edit plan, which is 50, and the 30 is the guy out front, now that you say that, plus the jail, and 20% for PCDC. So it has to be looked at, and the percentages and the slices have to be reconfigured so that that's got that set aside for that new amount of money that's going to be coming into the edit tax.
Right, and that could come out of 30%. What I'm saying is that,
Well, if you take it out of the 30%, if we just run that through, so then all of a sudden we're going to have 30% going to be split between the jail, the gentleman here that provides security, between maintaining the county buildings, and also the dispatch center. So now all of a sudden each one of these 4 entities will get less. The highway will get more because the amount coming in on the edit tax is going to be higher. So the highway gets more and the PCDC gets more if you leave them at 50 and 20, because the pie is going to be bigger. We're going to collect more money in the edit fund than we did in previous years. So
Taking 30% is actually bigger too.
everything, it's going to be a larger sum.
Yeah.
It's going to be a larger sum by about $300,000 is what it'll be.
Over the last 10 years, I watched the county grow from, that number was around 200,000. So I always watched that at, we are improving in the county when our edit funds increase. That means more people working, more people making more money. So that's a benefit. Who gets the credit for that? A lot of it goes to PCDC.
We're raising our rates though too, Randy. It's not because growth, that we're collecting
Right.
more from the people who actually work here. We're raising those rates to
Yes.
generate more money.
But the income has come up in the last 10 years.
Oh,
And the jobs
I'll argue
has
that.
increased in the last 10 years.
We're not
That's the
saying-
only way we get money in is, we can't get it from property taxes, so I watch this number every year.
this is.
So when it grows, we grow. So
I'm not saying the PCDC's not doing their job. Matter of fact, I talked to somebody yesterday that said Erin is doing a fine job, and they're in the mix, so they know what she's doing. I just don't see the urgency why this contract can't wait.
It's always been a December contract.
Just a minor
So
detail.
think-
It doesn't, if it ends on January 1, will you take action on it on January 1? No.
Yeah.
So there will be a month lag, give or take. We'll do, we serve at your behest, but but just think about that side of it. Our
I
contract.
mean, it can be discussed at the first meeting the commissioners have in January. And it'll be the first.
But it's still our-
I still don't see who else is, what other entity could do this, provide this service. Now, the amount, like I said before, and many times, is up to the council. This is saying that according to the commissioners, they're not going to be paid any more than $259,388, period. That can be reduced by the council. The council has to appropriate it.
That's a question.
Hmm?
That's a question.
Yeah.
So the way I'm understanding this is just the contract. They will submit claims each month that will be approved by the council to be
Yes.
paid. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So the only thing.
And the
I-
council, and the commissioner.
And the commissioners.
Right.
So as far as dollars paid out will be approved monthly.
Yes.
So this is just a decision of whether you're going to renew the contract.
Yes. Whether we're going, PCD's going to continue with the services.
So it's not really setting any dollar amount to be paid out, other than it states in the contract that it would not exceed the $259,380.
Right, and Exhibit A is the schedule of services.
And it's based upon 20% of our edit receipts. That's what it has been for years.
That's what
I
the-
didn't see where it was called out in this document. I thought I read that in previous documents, or maybe the edit plan. I'm not sure where I read it.
Probably did.
But it was in there. And see, that's the thing, the edit plan has changed. So, this is again, we can go back, sort out the deals or do whatever, but it just makes it that much more difficult if the document doesn't support what the edit plan intent is, and then we have to go back and revisit it at another time. We can do that, sort it back out, it just makes it a little more
Are y'all
complicated.
willing to revisit if we find that the edit plan doesn't support the 259?
I think the short answer is that we have a contract in place, maybe to Chris's point, that 1 month, you'll get a claim. We recognize that at the end, should the dollar amount change, we're working to a different dollar amount, so we just want to communicate and understand what that is.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line for us.
The whole point, you're not gonna get council approval this year. I hope you realize that. I mean, they're not meeting, so.
But for whatever it's worth, the executive branch of government often, if you supported it and took it forward, the expectation would be we had a good chance that it might go through. Now, I may be out of line
Yeah,
to
I
make that assumption. but-
I suspect when the council changed the edits to reflect, to try to put some money set aside for maintaining county property, I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe they'll hang tight and say that's gonna happen, because that was their
Which would
intent.
mean
Well,
the
then-
dollar amount on that would not be that amount.
It would,
It
it would
would
change.
not
Fair.
reach that.
But
It would
again,
never
that's
exceed
fair,
that.
we understand that.
Yeah.
We just did the worst case scenario in terms of the total amount.
The contract doesn't guarantee any minimum amount, it guarantees a maximum amount. Did you have something, sir?
Yes.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Gary Greibel, the Human Resources of Waupaca Foundry, one of the larger employers here in the area. In speaking for the PCDC, not directly to them, but as an entity, Randy, you brought up a good point. You got to have a measurable, that's how you do and succeed. Referring to slide 5 in their handout, the evolving role of economic development, it is vital to us as we look at the future as Waupaca Foundry, we look at the future of the community that we reside in. We pull from over 20 different counties for employees. We are concerned about, I can go closer and not have to drive as far. Those are the roles that the PCDC evolves through, the business attraction, the community development, the housing. It's imperative to us, and I know the deadline is coming. And Tom, to your point, it's imperative to us that this circle not be broke. As you point out, who is going to fill this role if this contract isn't looked at? I'm not privy to the details, the percents, the dollars, who else has to do that? I'm not. But I do know as a company who is looking to grow as well and continue our growth here in Perry County, we need these support services. So who is going to do that? So that's just my simple 2 cents. So I appreciate your all's time, appreciate the concern, appreciate the community's concern, but it's important that this not be broken. Somebody has to fill this role and continue. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, David, I got a question. When that was formed 20-plus years ago, there was an interlocal agreement with Perry County, Tell City,
Right.
in that interlocal agreement. This might be a Chris question.
Yeah. Well, actually, we have.
I've got it.
Yeah,
You have an
No.
local agreement?
Well, I have
a copy
the
of the
ordinance.
one that however long ago.
I'd like to see that, because I've looked everywhere for that interlocal agreement. Well, no one could ever come up with it.
Well, what I'm getting to, before we change the edit plan, that has,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's-
I think the overarching, that probably supersedes anything.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it established the parameters within which the plan was established. In other words, that was the basis for where, again, this is all economic development, income tax dollars. Everything that's funded out of this spurs, the intent from the state was it spurs economic development. That's why in the decision where that agreement where the 50% was established for local roads, county roads, was because roads drive economic development.
Yes.
The 30% was to cover your debt service and various ongoing, especially when the TIF was removed from this particular location, which was providing the revenue for the maintenance and upkeep concerns should we have an event. But that's that 30%. The 20% was to support an organization that literally could stand beside you and continue to push these things to support what we've heard. I mean, so that really, I would argue that, and that actually, if I'm not mistaken, that went before the Indiana State Supreme Court to establish that. So that kind of created the framework within which the TIP, or the Economic Development Plan, has been developed and redone year after year after year. So you might want to kind of like review that first, and then go back and look at your current economic development plan, and then the actions of the council to determine if, A, the actions of the council are not being met based on the expectation of what, and was it done in a manner that actually fits within that, and what does that mean if it doesn't? And again, we don't want to suggest, I mean, you have to maintain and upkeep your facilities. So somehow, or whatever mechanism it is, we support and help you do that. Again, we hope to continue to serve you. You all have to work that 50, 30, 20, and what did that mean relative to the economic development plan that was developed under that kind of overarching thing.
And
that's for you guys to.
I can't see anywhere, and I just briefly went through it, I haven't read it, but it doesn't appear to me that's an interlocal agreement. Now, an interlocal agreement should have Tell
That's
City,
the ordinance,
Hamilton.
that the agreement, I don't know
Yeah.
specific.
And see, what that does is bind, we're going through that same thing that right now with the animal shelter. And I'm not, yeah, I'd like to read that if you would. Randy, if you don't want it, hand it down, or I'll take it with me and read it. When
What's
I get
that?
Right in front of you.
I know over the years, we looked at, years ago, some of the council was wanting to change a little bit of the highway department, 50%. And as commissioners, we held our ground on that, because once you give it up, once the roads go bad, we're 30 years in the past, and we don't want to go back there. And that's the same way with economic development. I don't want to go back, I want to go forward. So I'm good with signing it today. I'm good with making a motion, passing the contract today. Because it's been a rule of thumb since I've been commissioner.
Yes, with
For the
JR.
last 10 years, we've signed it. Maybe 1 year we did not because of the transition in leadership. They didn't get it to us in time, but it's always been in December. So that's where I stand. And
JR.
JR, you want to come up?
Yeah, thanks. I got Tom's attention a minute ago, but yeah,
I know, I was waiting.
I was on the council a few years back, and I'm glad things have changed, because the 3 years that I was there, I did not get a monthly bill from PCDC. I got one once, and it was quite, like lump sum thing. And then I asked for it broken down, and I finally got that broken down. It was different. But, so I'm glad it's changed. That's a good thing. So I did have one question as Aaron was speaking about dealing a lot with the 500 people who have the opportunity to transfer to here or Wisconsin. And just, I was going to ask Aaron, how many of those were you actually able to transfer to? And I didn't, you know,
Gary, I'm gonna let you give the
okay,
exact.
because I was,
numbers.
since he came up, then I figured, well, I'll answer since he's actually here.
I
if he
know
can
that
tell you.
we talked to many of them, but I will let Gary.
So, when we first heard of the closing and, we opened up an
Gary.
internal job fair.
Could you get up here that way, the people out here and the rest of it can hear
So when
you?
we heard of the closing of our Plant 6 facility, mostly, we still have a finishing room there. We immediately reached out to PCDC and the chamber, they reacted. They put those welcome packages together. They offered, but we did not take them up on it. We went down and had our own job fairs. We had numerous tours up. We directly ended into the PCDC. So with that, we had approximately 20 families or individuals come into the area. Okay? So what I mean into the area, and you all brought it up before, do they live in Perry County? Do they live in Spencer County? Do they live in Kentucky? They hit within the area. Several I do know landed within Perry County. So that was a quick turnaround and a quick reaction.
Do we have like a group out of 20 people who came up here for employment? How many do you think located in Perry County? Just a guess.
Don't know.
5?
Don't know. I would actually have to go pull their address. So
I
do
know
not
that Cody had shared that there were several that did
Yeah.
end up locating in Kentucky, but. there
So,
were
And then-
housing
now,
options.
with due respect to that 20, that's my number.
Yeah.
That's not their number.
Right.
You're asking of a different number. So I can break that down, and I know the success, and I'm okay, like I said earlier, we pull from 20 counties. But we're at risk if they don't want to come close, and we offer relocation within our own company. We're at risk if they don't feel this area is good enough to come close. We're going to lose them to Southwire, Domtar, Toyota, you know. So it's imperative that they come in and they come.
And my next question is, out of those that chose not to locate here, what was the influence factor, whatever, that moved them to Kentucky or whatever? Because those are addressable. Is there something we can address as a community
Well,
to make ourselves more
You've all
desirable?
noted that it's cheaper to live in Kentucky than Indiana.
So was that their motivating factor?
Tennessee's a South state, Kentucky's a South state, Indiana maybe not so much, depending on if you go back in history. Don't get into that fight.
But I mean,
It's a different culture in Tennessee.
Yeah.
You really have to look at that culture that wanted to locate here. The fact that we have all the woods and the outdoor, that brought some people in. The schools, daycare brought some people in. The fact that it was available, if they took advantage of it, I do not know.
Yeah. See, and the question becomes, that's a question we ask to see if it's something we can address, because the ideal is that they locate here and the tax revenue stays within our community.
Sure.
Housing, I will say what, from the
Drove.
conversations we had, housing was the #1 barrier, and we talked to someone from Courtly that was a corporate move where this person was in that role there and they were being moved into corporate here. And it was so bad that it was a husband and wife and their 15-year-old daughter, and they were looking and he said, I've heard we could maybe get a camper and live in that. Can you tell me where we could find a camper? We didn't
Sure.
let that happen, and we didn't stop until we located them housing. But when that's the feedback you're getting, that we may have to live in a camper, they're going to go to other communities.
Right. And we do exit interviews. We do exit interview of all willing employees who are willing to talk to us. Like you stated earlier, Andy, they're pretty upfront. Now,
When they're leaving, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's game on, they say anything, they kick my file cabinet, I don't care. Closer to home is a lot of them, because they don't initially live here, they're living somewhere else. But we, with our relocation ability with our own company, we are, if you live further than 50 miles, we will get you closer. So.
Well, you're never gonna overcome the family farm that's over here that grandma lived for
And that was a lot
150
of the
years.
Tennessee stuff, because a lot of those folks were living on family
Yeah.
ground and they weren't gonna give it up. Totally respect that 100%. Totally respect with the current gas prices. I gotta find something close. I respect all of it. It's our job to be an employer of choice, and it's the community's job to be a community of choice, and we're seeing those changes. The famous phrase, ain't from around here, I fit that bill. I didn't come into the area until the 90s, so I have seen changes as things grow. So it is getting better, and I appreciate all the efforts of everyone to do this, especially as an employer of choice.
Well, we want you to be successful by all means.
We are a for-profit company.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. Yeah. That's crucial.
But nothing else.
I went to an economics seminar, and one of they stated is you find your large employers and try to grow them. That's the easy way. You're one of those.
Yes, we are.
So-
And we're proud to be here for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, my position hasn't changed. We do need somebody to do this.
Well, I feel the same way, Tom. I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
And I'll second it.
Well, yeah, I'm going to be opposed to it simply because I haven't read the contract, not comfortable signing anything I haven't read, and also with the edit funds, they need to be addressed and how this all comes together. I like the details to be
I believe that the
so.
edit fund, the amount is a council, and that falls under the council. We're just saying, we're not gonna pay them any more than this amount. That's what this contract says. It doesn't say we will pay them that much, it says it will not exceed that. And the amount, between that amount and zero, will have to fall under the fiscal body. So that's why I agreed to, contract passed 2-0, 2-1.
We'll tell her later, Tom.
I'm learning, I'm sorry, I'm learning. Okay.
Okay, all right. With that said, next thing on the agenda is Leah Hawkins with Indiana 15. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
I
Thanks.
have a small handout for you all.
This is just a presentation, you're not asking for
Oh,
anything.
I'm not asking for anything, but hopefully you'll take my survey. So, as you said, I'm Leah Hawkins. I'm here representing Indiana 15 Regional Planning Commission. We are approaching our 50th anniversary in 2023. So we're here to reintroduce the organization and talk about our 5-year sets plan. We are a public organization. We serve 6 counties, 6 cities and 21 towns, excuse me, including Perry and all those within. We're established under Indiana Code. We are also designated as an economic development district through the U.S. Department of Commerce. Because of these designations, we help our communities set priorities and needs, and then we try to find funding to meet those goals and needs. And that can be through project planning, project development, grant writing, grant administration, and so on. Over the last 50 years, we have been successful at bringing over $150 million back to the region, and that's counting grant dollars only, so loans, anything like that. For Perry County specifically, we recently wrapped up the Canclave Blight Clearance Project in Candleton, which was a $500 grant through Okra. And then we also recently wrapped the Telsey Pool and Splash Pad improvements through DNR, which was a $250,000 grant. The Port Pier Infrastructure Project is currently underway at a $1.6 million for that one. And then we are also helping to administer the 4 ready grants that Aaron mentioned earlier. For a county total over the last 50 years of $24.46 million. Perry County, I grew up here. My family grew up here, and their family grew up here, so Perry County especially was a small, special place in my heart.
So do you still live here?
That's
Uh-oh.
awkward.
I had to ask
I knew
that
that question was
question.
I
Retain each.
don't live here.
Yeah. Don't start on her, I shouldn't have said
promise
it.
that this is a true answer. We looked for housing here. My husband and I, we both worked in Woods County. And we did look for housing here. We bought a home here, renovated that home, sold that home, and could not find something here within our budget that wasn't going to be a complete gut job. And we're DIYers. Like I said, we renovated our home ourselves. There were just better housing options in Woods County, unfortunately. And we moved in the pandemic, so.
We'll bring you back,
Give it time.
And listen, DuBois County, they also don't have a lot of child care options, and we're getting to that stage of our lives, and like I said, our families are both from here. Family reunion here in this room, more work for me. So, no, I don't live here, but I do a lot of work here, and I love this place. I went and got coffee here when I came in town, came early, special for that, so. But I'm still in the region, still serving all of the communities, and we do work on a regional level. So really, other than to just toot our horns and all of yours, all of the work of all of these people, we are here to ask you to fill out our survey. The 5-year says is due in April of 2023. That helps us do a lot of things. It helps us align our own goals with yours. It helps us figure out what's going on in this part of the region and this part of the region and how we can trend those. We want to hear from you, and the way to do that is to fill out the survey. And then in January, our oncoming director, Nathan Held, will also be making rounds to both commissioner and council meetings to go over those project priorities in more detail. But it's a quick survey. You can, there's a QR code on this card. There's a URL direct link to the survey. You can also access it through our website and as well as our new Facebook page. We are on Facebook these days, so we've been posting about it, but it is due January 1, so if you wouldn't mind, just give it a quick look over. So, not here to sell you anything, just take your survey. That's all I had, unless you guys have any questions.
And you have a list of projects that are currently on the, there's some additions that through our ARP funds that we're going to be funding. One of them is the park project at Derby.
Okay.
And I'm sure, I haven't reached out to them, but some things like that we'd like to get added to that. I'm sure they would too. So if any additional funding become available,
Yes.
they could utilize it. So.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And anyone is always welcome to reach out. I think you've met with Lisa and Nathan a couple
Sure
times.
have.
So if anyone has anything they want done in their community, quick phone call, quick email. Ooh, I'm so sorry.
Hope that's not Pam's pen.
We'd be happy to discuss what you have in mind and try to meet those goals. So I'll leave a stack of these up front. They're available for anyone. And
The original contract said that we started the 7th of November, and what we didn't have was the interlocal agreements signed. Randy brought that up as a concern that till we had those, that we didn't want to sign a contract and be on the hook for the entire amount without the agreement of the Cannleton and Tell City. We have since secured those interlocal agreements. I have copies of them here, signed by Ralph Terry, the mayor of Cannleton, Chris Kale, the mayor of Tell City, and one signed by the commissioners. So all entities have agreed to and signed the interlocal agreements. This one that you have here, Chris, is the old one. Huh? Right. So the date change, the date will be that the services start January 1st. That's when the payments will start. And Molly, you are here, and you are in agreement to start January 1st. The original agreement was November 7th. Right. And
Okay. So just revise this to start January 1st?
yeah, Chris Goffman was supposed to, he told me he sent you that new contract. Yes, sir?
He's left, I've got the new contract, he did not change November 7th on page 1.
Okay, well, that'll have to be
Just
changed.
flat out.
And I talked to him yesterday, he said he changed it and sent it.
On the copy he sent me, he changed the rest of it, but he still left that on the first page.
Okay, well, we'll have to have that accurately from Chris. I'm sure that was
I'll get with Chris on that.
yes.
Stretch the line to November, make it January, and sign it.
Okay. So, any questions or comments from Randy or Randy? Here, if you want to see the local agreements.
Yeah, I'd like to get copies because I'd like to read through those, see exactly, make sure they're committing the funds. I like to read it before I vote on it.
I think both of them the same, I think so.
Yeah, the agreement's the same on all of them. The one that we signed, it's all the same, it's just the only difference is that the others are the signed copies from the mayors.
Yeah.
That's the only difference in the interlocal agreement that we signed. We signed that local agreement in November.
the first thing that comes to, just from looking at this first one, if I remember correctly, the contract was for 76,000, and that will get you 75,000, so somebody has to come up with another $1,000. So
We
whoever's
answered that
gonna
once.
come up with
What
it,
that answer was to that.
take 63 times 12, whatever, 6,33333 times 12, and it should come up just a few cents less.
That was $1,000 from Troy, was included.
Oh, $1,000 from Troy.
So we need them on the interlocal agreement also?
Either that or ask Molly if she'll agree without $1,000.
Do you agree, take $1,000 off?
Then you need to have Chris add that.
Correct, yes. At this point, yes.
Okay,
Just take Troy off.
Yes,
okay.
So then he needs to
That's a
modify,
year, that's over the whole year.
correct.
he needs to modify the contract when he changes the date then to reflect the $75,000 payment.
Yes. I mean, to keep from holding everybody, one of the holdup was when we agreed to this in November, the one of the holdups, and not unavowed, was that we actually had commitment from Tell City and Cannleton, and now we have that. And to make it cleaner, that we wanted to start it January 1st. So I would entertain a motion to, I mean, we could sign it next meeting, or we can entertain a motion to agree to the contract with the changes that we have proposed.
I got a question on the contract that, I was a little bit, I don't know if I got a clear answer last meeting. We've got a tenant up there that rents part of the building. So much a month. In the past, that went straight to the animal shelter itself to
Right.
help offset their cost. That doesn't offset the county's cost, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's kinda why-
That was part of the presentation, and I believe that we also have to add to the, and I'm looking for it now, that we lease the building to River's Edge Animal Shelter for $1, and that they have control over the building and any.
And the tenant.
And anything that they do with it, and that was part of it. Molly's plan was to create other sources of revenue, that the animal shelter could not be operated solely on the amount given by the county and the cities, correct? Correct. And we've gone, and like the other animal shelter, long-term, we'll end up reducing the amount from tax money. I mean, and it could, but we have to have a start.
Absolutely.
But the tax money is a start, and what was appropriated by the two cities and the council and the county was for the year 2023. And that can be adjusted when they do their new budget, according to seeing how Molly's doing with the shelter. So, but we need, yes, sir. Well, you have every right.
Is that the same, I'm Stan Goffman, by the way, incoming councilman. Just trying to grasp everything that's coming in toward us. And is that the same animal control shelter that was 2019?
The same, yeah, the one, and how that, the animal shelter building property belonged to Perry County Animal Shelter, Inc., not the county.
Yeah.
The county, that organization turned the building over, deeded it to the county with the deed restriction that it be used, it or anything that comes from that is used for animal shelter services.
Okay.
And that's part of the deed restriction that has to be, that property has to be used towards animal shelter.
Well, I Googled it, okay, the address. And it definitely shows, sign says animal shelter. Really nice building.
Right.
I drove past there last night, and there wasn't any animal shelter sign whatsoever on it. It was, has anybody went past there lately?
Yeah.
Because the animal shelter's not open.
Well, wouldn't you think that you would have some signs up or something?
When
you
I
gonna
get
repaint
this,
the whole thing? I mean,
when I get this
it's in bad
agreement,
shape.
if you let me speak, when I get this agreement, yes, it is in bad shape. Thank you for noticing that.
Well, sure.
Once I get this agreement locked down, then we take the other steps. But why would I spend funds to put up a sign to a building that I don't even know if we're gonna move
A lot of
forward
people
right
go to
now?
business, they have the funds to do it, and then they open up, you know, I mean, a lot of
I don't
businesses,
know
but-
that this is moving forward.
Yeah.
So why would I put something up until I have a confirmed
Well, why,
decision?
another thing, why would the county fund it if they don't know if you're going to keep at it, you know?
Because it's under contract.
Yeah, but you can, when I read the contract, you got 30 days, any side can.
And then the funding
cancel.
stops.
Yeah.
Then the funding stops.
Yeah.
Because if she would dissolve the agreement, that monthly amount would stop. Okay? I mean, that's, in the agreement is that she gets the amount per month.
But don't get me wrong, we need an animal shelter. I mean,
I just don't-
I'm just looking at the money.
Okay, I
you know,
understand
as
that,
a
but
council.
you're coming at me with that's a silly question to me.
Okay.
The signage that was on the building, the
myself.
signage that was on the building, that had been on the building, was coming down. So I've taken it down. The building needs to be pressure washed. There's a lot of things that need to be going on that's been going on.
Yeah.
You drove past the building last night and there's no River's Edge Animal Shelter and you're questioning it.
Yeah. I'm not questioning, I'm just
I
asking.
think you are.
Well,
There-
okay.
It's in the works.
You're getting off on a
It's in
bad
the
foot
works.
here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Anyway.
But
It's in the
I think
works.
to answer your question, Stan, and it's a good question, that the contract, you know, says that she will be paid the amount every month. Now, if she terminates the agreement, she don't get that amount. I mean, every month, because the agreement is.
I know that. I know that.
Right. And the council has approved $35,000 for that payment to come out of for the year 2023.
What's the breakdown of the other entities, Tell City and Compton? And Troy wasn't in with that?
Yes. No, Troy wasn't. When the calculations were made, Troy was an idea, but they did. Actually, there is, I mean, I don't care to give you a copy of that, but that's the signed interlocal agreement.
And they have signed that?
Yes. I have a signed copy from Cannleton.
When will you get the money in for that? You know, when they,
That's billed to the city and the
Yeah.
cities every month also.
every month?
That's how it has been in the past. What we're doing, Stan, we're getting all the legal stuff out of the way before we can say go. And we can't say go until we get everything approved, and that's what we're doing right here.
So the county pays basically $6,333.33 a month, and then Accountant and Tell City will
They've agreed to
pay
pay.
into that fund?
Yes.
Okay.
And when they checks are written to the county, I don't know. That's an auditor's question. Chris may not know that answer yet.
Well, they would get the check the commissioners approve it the first Monday of the month. So it would be like a monthly claim.
Right, no, what he's asking, I think, is when the city's portion is given to the county.
That varies. I mean, it really does. There were a lot of times when we sent this in the past, it might be minus Hamilton's, it might be minus Tell Cities, because by the time we did the checks, we hadn't received their money yet. But then the next month, they maybe received 2 of Tell Cities.
Shouldn't something like that be in the contract?
No, because that's not her.
Okay.
That's not, she's signing a contract
I know, yeah.
with the county.
Yeah.
The county has signed an interlocal agreement with the cities.
Okay.
So it's between the county auditor and the cities to get their portion into that fund, correct?
See, the cities do not pay River Edge, they pay the county, then the county pays.
And one other thing I have is, I see the budget, the budget's in the red each month, or for the year, $17,040. Is there any way, how are you going to make that difference?
We have to fundraise. We have to fundraise with corporate donations.
One of the things, Stan, we just had a person here from California last week. As soon as she's up and going, I've got to send her the information, and she's gonna be making a monthly donation.
Shouldn't there kind of be an estimated
You can't.
line here, estimated fundraiser, I think, cause,
I ran into a person last week from California
yeah,
that's gonna start donating monthly.
yeah.
I'm not gonna tell her that she can't donate, because we didn't know it in
Sure,
advance.
sure.
I mean, you can't,
Yeah.
funeral home, she gets her name out in the funeral home, she'll be getting money from Louisville, Kentucky, Indianapolis, people that pass away that don't have family left, that have made surely good, they leave money, you get your name on that list.
Mhm.
I mean, in the past, Perry County Animal Shelter, which you can't use that name now,
Yeah.
it is shut down and protected. That group does not want anybody else using that name. But they used to get $6,000 and $8,000 checks from funeral homes in Paoli or Bloomington or wherever. Because somebody left it, and they've got a list that the director goes through and decides where to send it in compliance with the deceased's wishes.
So basically, on a report, a monthly report or quarterly report,
Once she gets
you'll
it
have
in,
all those
yeah.
donations.
Once she gets it in,
Everything,
it'll all be there.
everything will be listed out.
Okay.
And even, I have a feeling that even 6 months out, I'm gonna have a better feel of what donations we're gonna be just getting in.
Mhm.
And then where am I gonna have to go from there for my fundraising efforts? And I have, my plan is 6 months, I'm gonna have a better feel of that.
Yes.
Right now, I know that I have to fundraise $20,000. So that is my projection right at this critical moment, to cover expenses. I think 6 months down the road, I will have a better report for you, because I'll have a better feel of what's going on.
But the bottom line is that she's agreeing to operate an animal shelter for this amount of money. I mean, and that's the agreement. Now, she did give a proposal on her budget, and that's her budget on how she projects to do that. And that's an estimate. You can't 100%, say what the donations will be, but with her explanation and Molly's also, that they believe that they've got all that covered.
Yeah.
And that
They
covers
have
just-
given me, from listening to them, they have given me kind of a estimate,
Mhm.
you know, of what's coming in and what could expect.
Some of the things, Stan, like you can't project, Perry County had a cat hoarding incident 4, 5, 6, 7 months ago. And we trapped 58 cats and ended up Vanderbilt County Humane Society. We loaded them, took them to Corden, we're getting ready to put them in the shelter there. And Kendall at Vanderbilt County called and said, hey, I made room for all of them. They took all 58 cats, and they were diseased, sick, respiratory, bad eyes. So they put up a GoFundMe page. And with their connections, they raised $22,000 in
Less than 2 weeks.
less than 2 weeks. That took care of all the vet bills, all of them animals and everything. So there's stuff like that, you can't put any of that stuff in a plan, it changes. You have to learn to deal with what comes up. 11 o'clock last night, I was talking to a woman about an animal in Troy. 2 times I went to the bathroom, I've been posting that 2 people got cats missing in Tell City. This changes hourly, daily, and she's just gonna have to learn to deal with it. And they give her so much money to get started, the rest of it's more or less her problem.
Yeah.
Right, and we all hope that she succeeds, and.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Very, very much so, and, but, you know, if she doesn't, then we need to see, you know, as a community, need to see what we can do to help her succeed, you know, and whether it be donations or, and that could be, since Troy was left out of that, they could make a donation and make up for that pretty easily. So the amount would change from 63.33 to just 62.50 is what the county will pay them, with the agreement from the both cities that they will pay, that Tell City will pay $35,000 and that Cannleton has committed $5,000 for the year 2023. Now, those budgets will probably change for the 2024 year. I mean, and that's because Molly will know where she's at, you know, the council will consider it in their budget, and, you know, the amount will have to be adjusted.
I got a question. Who's doing the maintenance on it? Did the employees that you have, are you like painting the building, or you have plumbing problems, or?
There's been no maintenance on that building. That's what I'm being paid for.
Ongoing, yeah.
It's.
Yeah, that's pretty costly.
It's in the contract that's right here,
Yeah.
The River's Edge will be responsible for the maintenance. Yeah, but now.
I don't see that in the budget, though, but, anyway.
Okay, well, it's not in the budget because it's not part of the county budget. It's, I mean, it's part of her budget right
It's
now.
part of their proposal, basically.
Right now that we do, there is a fund that the county has to fix things that are broke. You know, like we've been working together on, there were some HVAC issues and stuff. And there is a fund in it, and it came from what was left over with the Perry County Animal Shelter, Inc. money, and that money has to go to animal shelter services, but that's in a separate fund in the county. That has nothing to do with the $35,000 that's budgeted for the operation of it. So if there needs to be something, then the commission and the council would approve that. I mean, that's how that would work. But the contract does read that the River's Edge Animal Shelter will be responsible for cleanliness, orderliness, and basic upkeep and maintenance.
Yeah, I had read that, I just didn't see anything like maintenance in the budget.
In her proposal, or in the county
Their
budget?
No, not the county budget.
Okay, I misunderstood your question.
Their budget, yeah.
Okay.
I know we're just obligated to $35,000.
And hopefully, and hopefully this works.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Two questions, Tom.
Yes, sir?
More towards Molly, probably. And first off, by no means am I against this. Last time we had this big debate, we got hammered saying that we were against you, which we're not. How is the building, floor, heat? Is everything up?
How do you think it is? It's been empty for.
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. Has anybody done any maintenance to get it going? Or are we going to be ready for the January 1st?
So there's no heat in half of the building. Half of that building is radiant floor heat. That system was not flushed out, like I was told.
And like we were told.
So now what I have done is I have contacted a company, and they have come in, and we've got a pressure test actually going on right now on that floor to see if we have some leaks.
How's that appearing?
There's two different systems.
Different zones.
One of the zones, I've dropped 20 PSI. The other zone, the bigger zone, is holding. So we did a soak test last night to see, because there's probably 1,000 fittings just on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a soak test last night to see if we're leaking air through one of those fittings. The soak test passed. He feels, so we're leaving the pressure test on all week, because because that's gonna give him a better idea. He feels right now that the pipes in the floor are okay, because he feels that if it was a leak if the floor piping was busted, it would have dropped off quick. It's holding, so he feels that the radiant floor heat is okay, so we just need to worry about the boiler unit and the tank. The water tank with a continuous water heater and do away with the tank. And I like that idea, so we don't have the bottom of it rusting out as this one did. And we can also use that continuous water for my domestic side too. And that's gonna run, he's priced it right now at right about $5,000. But we're gonna keep the pressure test going, and then he's gonna give me, so I can present that to you all, a hard estimate with equipment, and pricing.
Or you're only gonna give one estimate?
No.
You're gonna give
I've
multiple?
contacted, another company, local. I wanna deal with local, number one, and they have not contacted me back. We're at the holiday season too.
Yeah, one thing about it though, we need to get that floor heat going. If you're gonna,
No matter what.
Okay.
And there is,
Second
now,
question.
you understand the other fund,
Who has control of that other fund?
the county,
That don't answer my
the
question.
council.
The council does, okay, that answers
Right, ultimately. I mean, the commissioners can ask for it,
my, okay.
and then.
I'm not saying I'm against.
Leaks, because I've seen one. So I also, when I do turn the water on to the building, I want to have a plumbing company there, because I have a feeling.
Yeah, you may want to have the plumbing company there first and let them start from the
Well,
back end and come forward.
That's
But
very
that's your
possible.
call.
I have a feeling, and after speaking with Ed too, that we're gonna have some issues when we turn the
Say
water
it,
on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But there is,
But
the
we're
money that was
looking
left over by the previous animal shelter, with the earmark that it has to be for that, that the county had that's not part of the contract to operate the animal shelter. That's in addition to that.
I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm against by no means.
And we knew that there was
Who
probably,
that control was on that money.
Right,
And how we was coming on the building.
right, we knew that there would probably be issues, you know.
Absolutely. Unfortunately,
The most-
something sits empty.
The most important thing, Keith, everybody needs to wrap their hands around this and make it work for them.
We're not against,
That's the
I'm
most
not
important thing.
personally, I could, without a doubt, I've talked to her a couple of different times. I just was asking exactly what she answered.
Yeah, good.
What kind of condition, you always hope for the best. But, if you don't know what you're doing with them systems,
We,
you'll have
in
trouble.
the last, I guess it's been 5 years now, we've had the maintenance do a walkthrough every, couple weeks or every month.
When they felt it was necessary.
Yeah,
Greg's
so we've
been
been-
watching it.
Trying to keep an eye on it, but it's a vacant building, so.
So Tom, you want me to check email from Chris to see if we've got an updated copy of that? And if-
Well, he was supposed to have emailed it this morning. So, I mean,
That's
yeah, and we don't have it in front of us, but we can pass this with the revisions of starting January 1st and the amount being $62.50 instead of $63.33. That is a possibility, if someone wants to make a motion.
I will vote against that again because if the document's not completed, I prefer to read contracts before I vote for them. So,
Really just a date is all.
The date and the amount.
That's only two items.
Going lower.
I'd sure like to read it. I'm just that way. I mean, before I sign contracts of any nature, I
I
read
don't
it.
want to kick this can down the road any further.
Well, go ahead and pass it
Kicked
then.
down for years.
I'll make a motion to pass the contract.
And I'll
And the
second that.
interlocal.
And
With
I want to have it noted in the minutes, I opposed it because the actual contract was not available in the form that it's going to be executed. And that's my reason for opposition.
Pass 2-1. All right, next thing on the agenda is bid opening for highway supplies, gas for the county cars and sheriff's cars and diesel fuel. Okay, well, that's what we'll open, that's what was, the first one is for premium on-road and off-road diesel. It's been submitted by Sin Energy Partners. All right, premium diesel, 25,000 gallons more or less, off-road, 15,000 gallons more or less. And their bid, you got the bid document. This is what was advertised. Everybody submits these differently. That's just the bid document. This is the specification. Find it. There is a breakdown of the regular gasoline. The firm bid.
Tom, is that for Sharon Gallon diesel?
They have actually given a list of all types of fuels.
Remember how that works? The price, if they put a price there, it's the price the day they fill it out. I call the day we open the bids. If you take it, I call back and it's set at that price. I called this morning, got prices. If you take it under advisement, then the price may change between now and then. I do have prices for today if you want to.
On diesel?
Diesel, yes.
They're the only one that has submitted a bid for diesel.
So Steve, when
Anybody else can meet the cetane rating on that?
when they submit the diesel price, is it a fixed for the entire year?
It can be.
I've got it.
We can
take
choose.
it farm or we can take it flex. I've got it priced both ways.
And I would anticipate potentially going down. Am I, $5 a gallon for diesel seems pricey compared to the price of crude oil.
You come in up here, Steve.
I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I was expecting about $4.50 or $4.90 a gallon.
and that's off-road?
That's what I was expecting,
Okay.
gallon. Now, there are some taxes that go on this. They always have, you know, I mean, it's not reflected in this price, but this is the price per gallon. They gave me a better price than what I was expecting to get on these.
What was your flex price for off-road?
Off-road, the flex price was $286.8.
Ooh, that's significantly less than what I expected.
Yeah, me too.
And that's up for how many, 25,000 gallons?
That's 15,000 for off-road.
15,000?
But it says more or less. If we go over that, we don't have to buy that. Because last year, we went over on our gallons and they raised the price, and Marilyn called and said, it says more or less, you can't raise the price. And she said, you're right. So they charge us the same price always. Because it's got the more or less in the contract.
What was the firm on the on-road?
Firm on on-road was 334.7. Now, if I don't call them back today and confirm this, you know, whenever you guys accept the prices, that I'll have to call that day and get, if the price changes every day on it.
We can lock in 335.
If I go back to the garage and call them, tell them we want that price that they gave me this morning, that's locked, we can lock it in for the year.
On the flex, is there a minimum up and down, or is that just what we're paying today and whatever the market is?
Yeah, that's whatever the market is.
What's your storage capacity out there?
We've got, what is that diesel tank, Jared, 6,000? Is it more?
Probably not even that, probably three.
We've got an on-road and an off-road tank.
Probably 1,500, 3,000.
Each?
Yeah.
So you can buy, is it, what's the condition? Is it full, empty, whatever? I mean,
They fill.
They fill every week.
They come fill them every week.
so they just come and top them off then, so we can't. I'm just thinking if we buy a volume at a lower rate, I mean, roughly you're 50 cents a gallon, you know, taking the flex currently versus the fix. The question is whether the market's gonna go up in 2023 to
He told the
justify
guy
it.
that I got the prices from, he said he does not think it's going down for very long. He said he thinks it's gonna go up next year, but of course, if any of us knew that, that would all be rich.
Correct.
What was gonna happen.
Yeah. So on 15,000, I did roughly, it saves us in excess of $7,000. If we stay flex, we're capable of buying 15,000 at that price. Now, what do you usually burn in a year? How much in excess of that do you burn?
That varies a lot depending on.
Your workload, but just on average, what do you?
We probably, well, most of the time we've stayed under that 25,000. This last year, we did go over that.
But normally these numbers work for you.
You went with a fixed price last year.
We have went with the fixed price for the last several years. It really worked out good last year, I thought, because we were getting it for, I think, $2.47 a gallon. And I'm shocked that we're gonna be able to get, I think maybe we ought to take fixed price again for $3.34 a gallon.
You could jump up to $5 next month.
Yeah.
And then you'd be, miss your opportunity.
I think it's unlikely with the economy heading where it is. Now, we may get some price increase depending on what they do with it, but 2023 is not gonna be anything spectacular. And we can revisit that at the end of next year to see if I'm right. There's too many things that's lining up that's not,
I'm glad to hear you say that, it's not gonna get.
it's not. Prices are gonna come down. Steel's
Did you
already
sign something saying that?
coming down. I can tell. I've watched a lot of it.
I mean, it's basically 50 cents
Yeah.
difference.
I think you're buying a little insurance if you put a fixed price on
And
No,
it's
we
paid
know,
off.
You can
we
budget a
know
little
then
bit
what
better,
we're
too.
gonna spend.
Yeah.
Every year.
We know what we're gonna have to have for our
It's
budget.
easier to budget, yes.
I mean, we've already done our budget for next year, and we was expecting, we'd put more in because we were expecting a significant increase. And, I mean, this is enough, but not, I was figuring it's gonna be close to $5 a gallon.
Yeah, and the firm is a little over 3, so that's,
Yeah.
and it seemed like there was always, if I remember right, there was always a pretty good little difference in the fixed
Yeah.
and flex, because there's no insurance, but it really paid off in 2022. Now, like Randy said, it may not pay off, but if we all knew that answer, we would be multimillionaires, we wouldn't be sitting here. I mean, your recommendation is what?
My recommendation is to accept the firm price on both of them.
Can you give me those prices again? Let's do.
Steve, what'd you budget for this year per gallon?
Well, I don't remember.
We pretty well doubled that 240, what we had it locked in at.
Yeah, 'cause we thought we were gonna be paying double the price, so
So you figured 440 something?
Yeah.
That's what you figured in for next year's budget,
Yeah.
or for this 23 budget?
Yeah.
And that's the diesel?
Yeah, that's diesel, off-road and on-road diesel.
See, we're paying about a 17% premium to get it locked in. That's what it amounts to.
It could jump that much in one
Current day
day.
market price.
Right. And since you've already budgeted more than that,
Yeah, we should save some money.
then it should keep you within your budget. You're guaranteed to keep within your budget.
Yes.
But if you take the flex and it jumps up to 6, which is, you could argue the fact that's unlikely, but it's still possible.
Is that an either or? I mean, could we take a portion of it flex and a portion of it? Okay.
We have to take it one way or the other.
Your recommendation would be to fix.
That's my recommendation. If I'm right or not, but I'll tell you about a year from now.
Right.
We'll meet together and we'll decide which one was right.
Right. And a year ago, with the same statement, then your answer now is, we really did well. by Stanley.
We did last year, yes.
20/20 hindsight, Tom, we're all good at that. So is that the only bid on diesel?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we want to go ahead and make that, we always table that till the next meeting, but I don't think we need to since we just got,
Well, we always want the bid documents to be approved by the county attorney. That's.
yes,
that was
that's what I
always
mean,
the-
yeah.
Mhm.
But should we have Steve go ahead and lock that in today?
We can, the option is that we could accept that bid with the caveat that the bid documents
Is
are
that
approved by the
approved by the attorney? Yeah.
attorney.
Does that work for them, Steve, when you call them up and tell them it's pending approval from?
Well, yeah, I'll just call them and tell them you accept that price, depending on Chris approving it, which he would never have a problem.
I think it's all
And,
more than the same.
Sin Energy usually does a good job
Yeah.
with the bid document.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a problem on any of that. It's good.
Well, I'll make a motion to go with the fixed price.
So I will call them.
Pending legal approval. I'm assuming that's
Pending
what.
approval.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second to accept the firm price on both on-road and off-road diesel pending approval of legal. Would be fine.
I think I need to fill my tank up.
And I also vote aye. So
We're filling up.
Just accept and get it to
I
Chris.
haven't priced it lately.
Is that the only diesel? That's the only diesel. Steve, you want to exercise, or you want to just stay up here till we're done with the?
I don't know if there's any question.
To go back and forth, or?
I could use exercise, probably.
Okay. The next one is from Mulder Crushed Stone for number 2, stone and sand. Item number 2, stone and sand in the bid documents. They've sealed it well. I just want to say, Pam usually brings that letter opener.
I'm gonna have to up my game, or.
I got it.
You got a knife? You probably cut your finger anyway.
I got a knife. Gives it
Not
back
allowed
to
to carry sharp objects. No, I got it. But it is sealed. Okay. The Mulders have given two different prices for various sizes of rock. The number 53s and 73s. Tower was $10.20 a ton, and at the Tell City Yard was $19.15 a ton. Size 2s, 5s, and 7s, Tower was $11.70. Tell City Yard was $21.30 a ton. Number 9s, Towers was $13.50 a ton. Tell City Yard was $23.50 a ton. Number 11s, Tower Quarry was $13.25, and Tell City Yard was $24.90. Size 11 cap, what's the cap?
That's chipping rock, real small rock.
Real small rock for,
Chip and seal.
they go on top of chip and seal. $14.05 a ton at Tower, $26.05 at Tell City Yard. Number 12's $13.80 at Tower, and no bid at Tell City Yard. Apparently they don't keep number 12 at Tell City Yard. Rip Rap, Tower was $12.60. Tell City Yard was $25.05. Wash pea gravel, $24.60 at the Tell City Yard. And regular pea gravel is $21.30 a ton at Tell City Yard. They did give a large breakdown of spread or stockpiled specifically to each township. So extensive list, but it is available to anybody that wants to see it. That's just a copy of the bid documents.
You haul most of your stone, Steve?
We have the biggest majority of it delivered there.
You have it delivered?
Yes. That's on that FOB page and stuff there. It's usually quite.
And this- the bid bond and all that, which they always do a good job. I mean, but that'll have to be approved by our county attorney.
We're in the northern part of the county, we get a lot of it out of Tower.
Right.
To give an example, if you want, or you can look at it.
So, you have somebody else haul it, or Malzers hauls it, or?
Malzers
hauls it to you?
Yeah, they've got that.
Do you stockpile very much stone?
We just put 6,000 ton there this month in the yard, and that's about all we can hold there,
Yeah.
for sevens.
I know in the past, I used to contract with people with trucks and give them the opportunity to haul it at a more affordable price, and they would take me up on, as long as I wasn't requiring them to have it at a certain location, at a certain time. So they would pick it up on backhauls and things like that and save money. And I don't know whether you consider that or something that might work, but if you can buy it at a Tower price and get it shipped cheaper.
Well, I've talked to had different truckers talk to me about that, and I've talked to some of them, and usually they're real close to what Mulder charges for the delivery. Mulder is pretty competitive on delivering to. It depends on the township.
Right. I used to get the coal miners to do that when they weren't hauling coal.
Yeah. Ain't very many of them around.
I know, they've kind of ceased to exist.
Ain't no much coal. To give an idea, the delivered price to Leopold Township, which would be what he pays at the yard there, is real similar to what the pickup price at Tell City Yard is. So, I mean, going down, just looking at a few of them.
We get very little out of Tell City because of the price difference.
They have to call to Tell City to sell it. So.
Right.
That is the only bid for stone that we have.
So do we want to do that the same way? Accept that, as long as Chris approves it.
That's what you want the motion, huh?
That's my motion.
I don't know where else we're going.
So, I mean, it's the only bid for.
Make a second on that, pending legal review.
Okay, motion made, second carried 3-0
You need to
to
open
accept
up a quorum.
orders on the crushed stone pending legal. All right, next to, this one is E3 Bridge, which is a pipe, basically, if I remember right. Pipe supplier, culvert pipes. And the other bid is from Southern Indiana Supply, which is also a various culvert pipes.
Now, Steve, didn't you buy that through a program through the state, or the pipe?
Culverts we don't.
Culverts you don't, okay.
This is the bid, and it's various sizes of pipe lengths and gauges, and it's basically a catalog. Then the other ones for Southern Indiana. This is the only two we received.
Who's got the cheapest?
E3 and
Most county, I talked to somebody. most counties do
E3
that
and
anymore.
Southern Indiana Supply. Southern Indiana Supply, they got the bid document, the bid bond, and all of the, and then they have a, not in a binder, they have a schedule of the pipe that they have, various sizes. And what we have done in the past is, and we found out that we can bid, and since we can accept both of these bids, and then Steve can shop whichever one is the cheapest at the time.
Sometimes one will be cheaper on plastic than the other, and that'll be more, it just depends.
Rather than commit to one company, and look and all of the different sizes. We found out a few years ago that we can accept both bids, and then Steve can just buy from either one, depending on where he gets the best price.
I talked to a guy from Silicon, he said most counties are doing it.
They were supposed to bid on this, they told me they were going to.
Well, it didn't come in like that.
Yeah, not here.
So the next question is, Steve's not restricted to just buying exclusively from those two, is he? You're not, are you? You
Yeah.
are?
Unless it's not available. If they tell me it's not available, I can go somewhere else, but it's, if they've got it, I'm supposed to.
You have to buy through either one of
In
them.
the farm store would be, because
They're
they
cheaper.
They sold price this year is cheaper than I can get it for. If somebody
But
calls out there on top, I tell them.
But they have to have bid on it.
So we cannot, if we don't accept those bids, can you buy where you want to?
I don't know how that would.
Yeah, I don't think we've asked that before.
Yeah. Legal question.
See, because, I mean, if he has the flexibility, and I know how this works, somebody's got some specific pipe in stock, maybe they got too much, maybe they bought it at a buy or whatever. If it fits his need to that ditch out there, he can buy it. I know in previous, the county bought pipe cheaper than you could get it about anywhere, but I don't know whether that's still the case, but I mean, that's where,
But it used to be.
yeah.
Usually there were different people that bought it through him because it was cheaper.
Sure.
But now.
We did too. I mean, went out and bought it from the county because it was less money.
But now it's cheaper to go to Hancock County Farm Supply and buy it.
Yeah.
And Menards.
And Menards, yeah.
Cheaper than we do, you know.
Yeah. The only trick is if you have to pay a guy to go over and get it, that might add to the price a little bit. But I would, you know, if we got flexibility.
We can
give him-
table it and ask that.
And
if we
ask the
can-
question, because if, I'd prefer to him be able to go into the market.
I would like it if I could go wherever I want, you know, if I could
Mhm.
go where it's farm store.
You know, because it's nothing, for an entire year, it's hard to say, you know, that one entity will have the most affordable price.
And that's the reason we went, accept both bids, we had that option, but now we're down
I
to
think
two.
even one of them pulled it's not available at that price anymore.
Yeah.
Even though their bid was this, it wasn't available.
Last year in November, the price jumped like 214%.
Yeah.
In November of last year, and I said, well, you can't do that, you got, I even went to Chris with it, and he said, with the COVID situation and the shortage of everything, there's nothing we can do. And everybody we bought from told me that. So it wasn't just one, it was all of them, you
They did jump.
know.
Yeah.
So we can table that pending that question of whether we could just refuse all
I'd
bids.
prefer it if we could table it and then ask the question whether we can give him the flexibility to go into the market when he needs it and determine the.
And we can get that
affordable.
answer by our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like over around the St. Minor area, Superior Ag sells them all the time.
Yeah.
You can just-
Yeah, the closer you can get to the vendor, to the location,
Okay, so is that your motion?
that's my motion.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made and seconded, carried 3-0 to table that pending the question that we can refuse them all. Now, the one thing that we did not get a bid on from anyone was gas for the county cars and sheriff's cars. We usually get, in the past, we've gotten one bid from CNS, but we have not received any, any bid from anyone.
So should we open it back up?
That's what I'm wondering, since we didn't receive any, that we should open it back up.
We have to.
Isn't CNS normally like a discount off of whatever the current pump price is?
Typically, that's been their,
And they got non-price what they wanted, you know.
Yeah,
right,
and that could be picked up any of the Northwest.
right. But to be legal, I think we have to just open the bidding to anyone.
While you're asking Chris the question about the pipe, ask him about the no bid on fuel, the gasoline, to see if that's a requirement that we open it back up and rebid it, or whether we negotiate because there's no bid. I don't know what our
I don't know
options are.
what our option, I
But
can ask
ask
Chris
him
that.
once and let him respond to that, so we
Yeah.
know where we are legally.
We can do that.
Anything else, Steve?
That's all I know.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, next thing on the agenda is contract approvals cleaning, Council on Aging and LEPC. Do you have those?
Right here,
As far as the cleaning contract, I have been advised to ask you guys to hold off on approving the cleaning contract with Glenn's. From what I gather, the work has not been satisfactory here. So they've got some issues they'd like to discuss on that before we renew the contract.
Okay, and who will be discussing that?
And Chris, who requested that? So who's gonna be initiating? I think that's Tom's question, mine also.
I guess I'll renew it myself.
You will, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I've
So
been-
you're going to address it and then come back with
Yes.
this? Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so upon your request that we,
I mean, it's Chris's request today, but most offices have requested this.
okay, so it's a joint effort. to-
Yes.
Yes, so in January, once I'll meet with them and I think it'll probably be a lot of the department heads to meet with them on the issues.
So when's their contract right out? December 31st?
Do we need to get it on the 29th meeting so we have cleaning services?
We do have another company that wants to bid it.
Okay, well, we can table this till the.
But it just all came up.
We
I
can
mean,
table this till the 29th
Yeah,
for a
table
cleaning
the
contract.
cleaning till the
With that said, why don't we advertise for bids then to move this along? I mean, if you've got a secondary company and if you'll draft a statement of what your requirements are and have both of them and be relatively specific so that there's no gray areas, and then just ask for them both to bid. That way we'll have something to open and compare it to.
Only thing, we won't have time to get it done by the first of the year, will we?
It may be a little ugly there, brother.
Maybe a little dirty for a week or so.
most of the offices have kind of been cleaning their own offices
Right.
anyway.
I don't think, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think if we initiate it now, and I think we have to get the notifications out, get the ball rolling.
Yeah, there's a time frame.
That way we'll get it, instead of waiting for another meeting and then decide to bid and then to just drag it out that much farther. That way we can, I think you advertise for 2 weeks normally.
Yeah.
So if you could get it out within a day or two here, even though it is the holidays, it'll still count on the 2 weeks. And if we have 2 active participants, they should be prepared. So the first of the year, we should be able to open bids and then take action, and we'll have something to compare it to. And by that time, you'll have discussed the issues with the current provider, and we'll see where that takes us. And hopefully, it's within budget.
So your motion is to open for bids.
Table the existing contract due to the request of Chris and the other staff here, and then solicit bids for the cleaning service. We may, to make these dates work out, we may have to add a special commissioners meeting in there at some point, depending on how quick you can get them out. Maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th, and restrict it simply to opening, cleaning bids and taking action, and then that's it.
Might have
To get it done so we get somebody cleaning the place.
What happens if the original one's cheaper than the new one?
Well, as long as he meets the specifications that they've drafted, then we'll hold him to those terms. And if he doesn't meet those, then each office holder will be requested to snap a picture, make a list, and we'll deal with it. So,
Motion made to table.
table and ask for bids, put the documents together and request bids for cleaning service, publicize it and request bids for cleaning
We
service.
go through the proper. Second that, Randy?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, and I'll vote aye also. The next contract is county attorney, and the current county attorney is Chris Kaufman, and he's expressed to me, but not in writing, that he is not necessarily interested in that. So Randy, you want to table that till we figure out who you
Yeah,
want to
I wasn't aware that was even on the agenda. But I'd like to have a copy of what his current one is, so I can
Sure.
see what's out there.
Sure. Cleaning. I don't think it's here, so you can get it from Chris.
Okay, just email it.
You want to table it?
Yeah, just table that.
Table the county attorney.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I got 2 with the cleaning service and none for.
Yeah, because on the agenda, it just had cleaning, council of aging, and LAPC.
Yeah, LEPC, Local Emergency Planning Committee, is in contract with Sandy Jarbo to do that for $1,417 per year. I know it's something that's required by the state.
We do it every year, don't we?
And I kind of have a question with that. When it states within that contract that she provides 5 hours per week service, and if she's doing it for 50 weeks, taking 2 off for a vacation, she's doing 250 hours worth of work for a little under $1,500. I guess my question is, it's an awful reasonable amount. And secondly, is this a 1099 employee, or is it a?
It is.
It is a 1099?
It's added to her W-2s.
So it's not a 10, it's an actual, so you're withdrawing Social Security and all the payroll taxes and that, so it's actually a supplement that's treated as?
Right, but it's done, she gets it on a monthly claim. She turns a claim in each month, so nothing is taken out then. But then it's put on her W-2 as wages. So we don't withhold Social Security on it, but she may have to pay that once she does her taxes. You know.
So it's on a box outside of the wage statement box that you.
Kind of like a stipend.
It adds up to $5.40 an hour.
I think it's $125 a month is what we pay her.
That's probably pretty close, you know, in that range. So how is that funded? Is that through a grant?
No. Gosh, I don't know what fund she gets paid out of, but it's not county general.
See, my question is, why wouldn't that, you know, I don't, I get we pull things from all different things. Why wouldn't that fall in and come out as a general salary type duties of the job instead of an exception to the job? Why?
I don't know what it comes out of and why. I mean,
I can look into it, Randy, and find out.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
because I know we have some other things that's similar to that, and a lot of times they're grants that, you know, pay for this specific employee or whatever, and I'm just curious on that one, how that's funded and why it's an exception.
And you know, it's probably been done that way because it's been done that way as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
And it's just never changed. But I see what you're saying, why not just put it on her salary?
Right, you know, and it becomes part of the job duty and it's treated, just curious, I don't know why.
We can table that till the 29th with getting those answers, but then we'll still be within plenty of time to.
So we need to find out where it's paid out of? Let's see.
Just what the funding source is and how, generally what happens when you have an employee, the federal and state government want to treat it all as wages. You see the Social Security numbers drop in there, and when you start doing things outside of that, it gets frowned upon, even by the insurance people on workman's comp and that. I've witnessed that before, and I'm just curious how the structure's set up and how maybe we should modify it in some fashion, turn it into a wage and pay it through that system, just to stay.
Instead of a monthly claim.
Right, and just to stay in line so that we don't come back and say you've been doing this wrong for 25 years.
So motion to table?
Yeah. We're just going to table it. I don't think you need a
Do I
motion.
have to do a motion?
Yeah.
We need a
To
motion.
take action, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table it until we get further information.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion made, second.
Just try to get that by the 29th. I think that's our next meeting.
Yeah, so that it goes through the end of the year, so.
Yeah, I'll try to get I'll have all this information over the 20th.
The next thing on the list is the Council of Aging contract. The council has appropriated $30,000 for their services, and this is the yearly contract that we, 4 payments of $7,500.
Probably hadn't changed from last year, had it?
No, it hasn't. They provide transportation for the elderly, and then they're able to bill to keep theirs up. But that's what the council has approved, is $30,000.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
And I also noticed in there, Kevin from the Veterans Administration had came forward to our group and was talking about transportation of veterans. And I know I made mention of this because we have a contract with them to do transportation. Sometimes they're not available, and part of this is Medicare will actually pay some on these trips, and in some cases the veterans don't have that coverage. It's through the VA. So I'm okay with it. I just want to try to get those two working together a little better, so our veterans also get served without the council financially suffering. So I'll second that motion.
Motion made, second, and also vote aye, carried 3-0. There is, on this list too, is, on my list, is a contract with Alpha Mechanical, preventative maintenance agreement for the HVAC system in the courthouse, but we don't have a contract.
I don't have
Okay, so we'll just
Table.
wait on that
Wait on
until,
those, yeah. I'll get
since
with-
we don't really have it, I don't think that takes any action.
No.
I mean, it wasn't on the.
Those were just a listing of that she gave, but we had all of them.
And Chris, when you do get those maintenance contracts, we have several of them. And I'm just curious, I'd sure like to read through those because we're buying a lot of maintenance service. And I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with what we're paying for.
Okay. And that's why I thought, if we don't have a contract in front of us at all, then we probably need to not consider it.
You had one other one, Tom, in there that was in our packet for the prosecutor's office.
I did not see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as long as I can take any action, because I was going to actually want to table that also with the new prosecutor coming in. I don't know exactly how.
Maybe that's why.
They may want to handle that process, but I think that should be
Maybe
in her office.
Why it hadn't been proposed.
Yeah. But it was in our mailing that Pam sent us, or somebody sent us.
Yeah.
But I think it was included.
I didn't see it on the official agenda in the moment.
Thank you.
All right.
Randy's.
Yeah, that's the council meeting. All right, well, that concludes every item. We've thinned the crowd out. Any miscellaneous, anyone?
We lost a crowd.
I think you hold the record for longest meeting, Tom. You had to do that right before the end, didn't you?
Wow.
I think it's the longest.
Well, we covered a lot of ground, answered a lot of questions. So, next meeting is December 29th, at what time? 9 a.m.? Okay. All right.
Pass that down. Anything else for us to sign?
Council meeting.
I can take this off.
Do you have the claims for us?
That's not till the 29th, the claims.
Okay, the payroll and all that didn't,
I got that for you to sign.
that's what we, yeah,
All right, so here
we have to use the pen.
Gave each one of us in the.
Oh, this is the interlocal agreement.
Somebody, she bought the shirts or got the shirts and somebody put these on.
Okay.
these are the
Two
agreements
places?
that we're holding off on.
Yes, one more. Now, she was out this morning, but she
Chris?
came back.
Yes.
Could you scan those interlocal agreements and send them to me also? How's Sherry?
Yeah, she's recovering, so she thinks she's good. She had
No,
neck
she
surgery
stands
on
up.
Friday.
So, when do they think she'll be up doing the jig?
And here's your pin back.
Okay, so I need to.
She thinks she can do it. Yeah, it feels great, doesn't it? Yeah,
Let's flip that.
shouldn't have done that. That's how it
Did she have an accident or just?
Yeah, we need
She's
to
got
sign
a
the
genetic
official.
disease that her spinal, her cervical vertebrae
Well,
continue to grow.
The only place it has where we should sign, but I'm not sure.
I think it did just have a place for the president.
Okay. That's the only place on there, I don't know.
Practice her.
Some nerve, like tingling or
Spinal
something?
cord, yeah, so she'll
No,
feel
but-
it in her arm, her leg, her face, and then it's pushed on her.
Yeah.
And it
I
doesn't
don't
take
know.
So they go in there and scrape it out.
Yeah.
They put titanium plates in. She had 4 of them fused together. They took that plate out because the bones have grown together. This is the 40th century. So every couple
But Cameron
of years-
had something in his neck that way. I don't know if it's the same thing. Was
Yeah.
it?
It is. Debbie didn't know it. Her older sister didn't know it until she woke up and couldn't move.
So Kevin's got that too?
Yeah.
I thought he had escaped it.
Nah, he's got a little bit of it, you know. They've all got bone spurs and stuff.
There's nothing worse than nerve pain. I mean,
Yeah, well, you know, if it touches and rubs on
I
the
get-
spinal cord, it's be paralyzed.
mhm.
It's like- But she knows when it comes on, every year and a half, she starts, oh God, here it comes. Just keep rubbing, go in and scrape it out, going through the front every time.
So did CNS seem like
They
that
gave
they
her
were
a
gonna
different
send one
slice
in
of
later?
that today, this time.
Can we accept?
Well, I'm
I mean,
spreading the
we're
rumor
waiting to
around, you
see
pulled a
how
knife
Chris
on her.
is
Yeah.
looking, accept one later. Do I contact
Tried to
Chris on
cover
all these
through it.
questions?
They'll make a bigger incision than that next time. huh?
Either one. You want to?
Then you can get some of them scabby looking things like they do for Halloween, you know, where it looks
Okay.
like a huge
I'll
big
get with
stitch.
Chris on all these questions, and then if that's the case,
Yeah.
then we can.
I wish I will, because I know what nerve pain is. I got a sciatic nerve every once in a while, and it's catching back here, and it
Because I think
goes all the way down to your leg and
that
everything else.
thought to just reopen the bid
Does it happen?
again.
Oh, yeah, re-advertise. I think that's.
I think you almost have to do everything, but
CNS forgot to put a bid
ask
in.
God to get surgery for back surgery.
Not anymore. See, this is the whole thing, when I went down to the
Yeah, I turned it off, yeah.
neurologist that did mine, he looked at it, he took the picture,